Avengers Assemble! That's right. Even though we're still months away from the Marvel Studios Avengers movie, I'm giving into the hype a little bit early and taking a look at the figures we have of the characters from the Marvel Movieverse. Now through this time, I'm just going to go through the movies, the figures I have, and review them all for you since I realized I haven't been keeping up with them as time went on. I thought it was an appropriate time to take this feat on. I'll still be doing other reviews on other figures, so we're not going to have a complete Marvel Universe glut. But I mean, honestly, you're probably going to get horror figures or Marvel figures in one way, shape, or form on this channel for a while. So we still got a while before Avengers, but hopefully this will do some good to tide us over until that movie comes out with some Marvel goodness. And today we're going to just start off kind of where the Marvel Movieverse rebooted itself, back with Iron Man 1 and the Mark I Iron Man armor. Now this is from the Hasbro Iron Man 2 wave, so it came years down the line. Iron Man 1, the toy line was mostly 6-inch figures, and Iron Man 2 brought about the 3 3/4 inch to match your Marvel Universe figures. And this version of Iron Man was one of the last ones I picked up, mostly because it was hard to find. Any of the Iron Men that really deviated away from the red and gold seemed to be kind of ones that were hard to find on the pegs. And this one being a completely different sculpt, probably doesn't share any parts with any of those other ones. He was a bit of a challenge to find, but I did manage to hunt him down. But I'm really excited to get around to reviewing this figure because he's a fantastic way to start off this Avengers series. As with every Iron Man 2 3 3/4 inch figure, he comes with the standard base. Nothing to write home about, but it's a decent little base. Got a single peg over here. Has a little area over here that looks like it should have the name, but doesn't. And then it has the slot back here to hold the cards. Here's some kind of cool detail. There's the metal grating of the floor here, and kind of wiry looking parts going through here. It holds the figure well, but as I said before, nothing spectacular. We also get our armor cards. This is a neat little idea, but I think it kind of got old after a while. I eventually stopped taking these out of their package, just because they're really easy to lose and really flimsy. And they always come out bent, so they don't really sit in the card holder on the stand quite too well. But this one depicts the Mark I armor. They didn't do a very good job of color matching the different shades. The arms and the legs are much more of a gray, and it's more of a blue for the main part of the torso. You see you get the legs in there, and the head and arms. It's still a neat little paper accessory, something cheap and easy to throw in there. And it's kind of cool because with the Mark I armor, this is how he had the designs done up in the cave. He's had the different sheets with different parts, and when you overlaid them, you got the full design. So, kind of a nice tribute to that scene in the movie. Now, Hasbro wouldn't be doing their job unless they gave us a ridiculous, huge, clunky accessory that didn't look like anything from the movie and was most likely going to be tossed aside by any collector. Definitely something made for little kids. And it's not bad. And it's got kind of the propane tanks back here. Has a clip where you could take it and place it onto his arm. It clips right on there. You have your translucent fire missile, which is kind of odd, seeing it's a full translucent orange plastic, except for this metal piece up here. That really seems like it should have been part of the gun. Why can't we just get a full translucent missile? I mean, it's all there. We didn't need this piece, and it just kind of makes it awkward that it's firing out a metal piece along with the fire. Especially seeing how the Mark I armor used a flamethrower as its primary weapon, it would have made a lot of sense just to have a fire piece. I might have actually even used it for display. As usual, you fire it, you shoot it, you aim it at your eye by accident and go half blind. Good routine with that. To be tossed aside and never be messed with again. The figure itself is phenomenal. As I mentioned before, it doesn't reuse any of the bucks from other Iron Men in the wave. It's a complete unique sculpt, as far as I can tell at least. A lot of unique sculpting on it. All the metal ridges are separate, giving it a really nice effect. You can see it even has the treads down here, the belts on his leg, all the different places. You can see the leather suit underneath. And for a 3 3/4 inch figure, they did a spectacular job of pointing out all the little details in this thing. The only main part I have a complaint with, really, is back here we have the little motorized section. And I really could have just done with a good paint wash to bring out the detail in it. Being this flat black plastic really makes it stand out from the nice brushed metal look of the rest of it. And they just did a phenomenal job with the rest of the paint. It really looks like rusty old metal. Really, really cool. Just for comparison's sake, we could bring in the other Iron Man 2 comic series original armor, which is from the comic book, which obviously this guy was based off of. It's kind of cool to see them side by side and see the differences made. Credit has to go to the movie makers for taking this design, which is still pretty cartoony and clunky looking, and transferring it into something that really does look believable. I really could believe somebody could make this out of scrap. Other detail here, you have the gas tank on his arm. I said propane earlier, it's probably more of an acetylene or something like that. I don't really see a location where it would look like he'd actually shoot the flamethrowers out of, but still, I mean, you could definitely picture him toasting some terrorists. One other detail I'm not positive how I feel about is the helmet. It makes sense they would have just done black eyes. It really kind of would have been cool if they would have gone the extra mile and even just painted in Tony Stark's eyes behind the metal. I think it would have been a unique touch, and it is one of the few chances you could have to actually see Stark behind the armor. You don't really have that with any of the other suits. But then again, it does work on the level that you could put this in a Hall of Armor display, and it doesn't have to feel like somebody has to be in the armor. Might have been a cool variant piece to come out with. Not that there were many variants in the Iron Man 2 line, but it still would have been a cool thought. For articulation, he has a ball-jointed head. You get a great range of movement. Not really hindered at all, which is almost surprising. The up and down is a little limited, but how much would you really get out of that helmet anyway? He has pin and socket shoulders. You do the full 360 pretty easily, though coming up is a little harder just because of the bulkiness of the armor. Still a pretty good range of motion, though. You can bend and swivel at the elbow. He doesn't bend a full 90 degrees, probably about a 45 degrees, honestly. But it's still decent, and you do get a nice swivel there. No wrist rotation just because of the way the gauntlets are designed with the metal on top. You really couldn't get that out of them. You can rotate at the waist. We have the Marvel movie series style leg joints, which means we have the little ball in there that you can rotate around, and you can hinge one way with it and then rotate the whole ball to get the legs to move out a different direction. Not my favorite. I've griped about it before, so I'm not going to waste my time here. I'll be doing it quite a bit with these next few figures if I decide to stop on each figure doing it, so I'm on the record saying I don't really like this design, but you can get good poses if you're willing to be patient to maneuver the joint just the way you want it. Just like the elbows, you can bend and rotate at the knee. Much better range of motion on that. You can almost get the full 90 degrees out of the knee. And then you can bend and rotate the foot. Cheating a little bit, but I got him posed with the comic series first appearance Iron Man fire weapon. But it fits on his hand just fine, and gives kind of a cool effect of him shooting some fire out there. So that could actually be a cool display option for this guy, if you're willing to mix and match parts from other figures. I have to say, I'm thoroughly impressed with this figure. I was originally going to say it was one of the nicest Iron Man figures I've ever seen as far as the sculpt and detail go, but I'm going to go a step further and say it's probably one of the most detailed 3 3/4 inch figures I've ever seen done. It's really a fantastic figure, and definitely a high recommend for this guy. He's absolutely cool. This has been another Outside the Box review. Stay with us as we continue to count down to Avengers.